This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about the importance of women working with a financial advisor. In studio with us today is Larissa Flores, a financial professional with Modern Woodmen of America. Larissa has worked in the insurance industry since 2005 and has her Financial Services Certified Professional, or FSCP, designation, Retirement Income Certified Professional, the RICP, and the Fraternal Insurance Counselor, or FIC, designations. Larissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Marc. I'm excited to be here.
All right, awesome. Are you nervous too?
A little bit.
A little bit. Good. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced administrative assistants for insurance agents who need help with policy management, claims processing, and client communication. So if you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for businesses, head over to our website at krukus.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses like yours. The link is in the podcast description.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help business owners create marketing strategies to help evolve and elevate their business.
And I am also your co-host, Heather Rose Boehme, certified business coach and owner of Onset Professional Development, where we help overwhelmed and burnt out business owners wrangle their business into submission through business coaching, training, and process mapping. So if you are looking to get out of that overwhelmed, I don't know where to start situation, just give me a holler. I'm going country today.
How do they get in touch with you anyway?
They can email me at heather@onsetprodev.com or go to my website, onsetprodev.com.
Love it. All right, so a quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media, where you can catch video version of the show, which is my favorite way to watch it. And yeah, I actually do watch some of those clips back. There's a lot to learn. Those clips are good. I like the way my team is jazzing them up with the new CapCut software that we've been using there. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. Now, we've got an event. By the time this thing airs, we will have already had the Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer on October 3rd. Are you coming?
Yes, I'll be there.
All right, awesome. So we're expecting about 250 to 300. I know last time I had done the count, and I know we sold a lot of tickets since then. We had 160 that were already committed to coming, but we're expecting 250 to 300. So I think it's going to be a great time. Our house is like full of alcohol now. I mean, we've got all the wine and all the beer, and everything is chilling.
You're ready.
As long as you don't dip in before the party.
And then, of course, we're going to have lots of margaritas. Yeah, it's real tempting. I'm a
Be
Corona
counting
fan.
these bottles here.
So we got Dos Equis this time.
Ooh, I like Dos
At
Equis.
Shiner Bock and Corona are going to be the beer. And then we got lots of wine, different kinds of wine. And then margaritas. We're going to have 4 different margarita machines.
One margarita.
The Marc
Margarita, that's a good one.
Margaritaville.
We need that logo.
You design it, I've got a cry cut. We'll put it together for them.
All right. And, of course, videography. You guys are going to be doing interviews on the red carpet with some
right.
folks. They're going to be creating clips like we've done in the past. And then, of course, professional photography. Matt Roberts is going to be doing the photography out there. He does a fantastic job. So lots of good stuff. And then, of course, the most important thing is we're going to be connecting with each other. So if you missed this one, because you will be hearing this after, get in on the next one. We'll have another one. We're planning on doing 2 next year. They're going to be big as well. So just keep a lookout. All right. So Larissa, you and I met through BNI. You've been
Correct.
doing that for how long? Been doing BNI?
About to renew for my 3rd year.
Okay. So it's working well for you then.
It is, yes.
All right, awesome.
I love it.
And so tell me a little bit about your background. Obviously, you're in the financial world. I'm
Yes.
curious about why financial and why Modern Woodmen of America.
So I started, as you mentioned, in 2005 in the insurance industry. I started at USAA as a property and casualty agent, worked my way up to a senior agent over there, was on the billing helpline for a while, and felt, I guess you could say, bored. I just wasn't at a point where I felt like I was being challenged any longer, so I decided it was time to expand and look at other options, and I found New York Life. I worked at New York Life for 2 years, and then in 2023, Modern Woodmen recruited me. And when I looked at the background of Modern Woodmen of America, they're a member-owned organization. They have fraternal benefits as well. And it just really inspired me to go back and work for a company like USAA that is also member owned. But to be able to have that fraternal aspect on top of it was very exciting, very intriguing to me. So I took the job with Modern Woodmen.
Can you tell us like what the fraternal aspect really is for people listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work to give all our money back to the community. We did over 17 million in 2022 back to our community. We also have fraternal benefits specific for our members. So some things like birthday book clubs, college scholarships. Probably my favorite benefit at the moment is, it's like picking a favorite child. It always depends on your mood that day. So my favorite fraternal benefit is the orphan support benefit. So if at least one of the parents or the child has a policy with Modern Woodmen and that child becomes orphaned, they get $700 a month support directly from Modern Woodmen until they turn 18. And at age 18, we give them a $50,000 education grant.
Why did you choose financial, though? What was the story there? Because, I mean, there's obviously, P&C world. There's all kinds of different insurance and stuff. But why did you go into the financial?
It just seemed like a natural transition after doing property and casualty for so long. And I still have my property and casualty license, so I can still say this legally. So the whole goal of auto and property insurance is to protect your financial net worth. So what does that mean? And that's where I was intrigued as well. Like, what does that mean? Protect your financial net worth. How do you determine that? So I decided that's where I was like, all right, I'm already doing this. It's a natural transition to go to life and health and go on to financial planning and actually help people I sit down with calculate what is my financial net worth? What does that mean? And then making sure your insurance is in line to protect that.
So kids aren't really taught about financial, planning or financial wealth. Anything like that in high school. And then, and I know that you're one of the things we said we're going to talk about is as far as women having that support as well. So does that have an impact on why you're doing what you're doing at all? Or
I think it does. Yes. I was not raised with a lot of financial security, if you could say that. So I think it was important to me to just learn on my own, but also to take that education back to the community. You mentioned high school. If I can pivot to another one of our fraternal benefits, we have a Money Masters program. It's a series of 5 classes. It's from the elementary all the way through high school. It is designed specifically for age level, and teachers can qualify for a grant once they finish the Money Masters program in their school.
Well, what was it about the financial world that really drove you to dive deeper into it? Was there something that happened to you on a personal aspect that kind of made you really look deeper into it?
I don't know that, like, looking back, I can say, oh, wow, I wish I would have known that before. There's a lot of those moments. I think going into actual financial planning was not necessarily on my radar, but when I moved to New York Life, it was like, okay, you have your life and health license, now you're going to get securities licensed. So it wasn't really something that I had thought about until I started at New York Life, but now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh wow, this can be a huge impact. I wish I had done this 20 years ago.
So that actually tees me up into a question I was going to ask, because you went from working at USAA for a while to New York Life, and New York Life is all sales, commission only. What did that transition, what was it like for you learning the sales aspect of the insurance world?
That did take a little bit of a learning curve because, yes, USAA is an inbound call center. So to go from an inbound call center and I get paid either way to having to go out and network and learning how to network, which I love doing. I love talking to people. So it did take me about a year to be able to really kind of figure it out, because we have to do our own marketing as well. And that...
Got to hunt for your own food.
Exactly.
I love that, though.
But that's the
Bring it
thing.
on.
Some people love it and they go in with eyes wide open. And some people are like, well, it's going to work out. And then it doesn't immediately happen. So what was your experience with that? Was it something that like you took to naturally, or did you really have to work at learning the skill of sales and marketing?
I really had to work at at learning skills. My husband's in the car business. He's been in the car business for 27 years. He helped me a lot. But there is a differentiator there as well, because people want to buy a car. They're going to go to the dealership. He doesn't have to necessarily network the way I do, but he did help me a lot with language. And once I'm talking to somebody, how to have the conversation with them to turn it into a meeting.
That's a great point. How do you find people that are hungry or looking for, because they're not really looking, like you said.
True.
So how do you actually convert them to a client? What are you looking for there?
Oh gosh, just someone who wants to learn is really, you have the conversation with somebody and it's like, what are you doing now? Who are you working with now? And if they're not working with anyone, why not? I've heard it so many times. If you have a medical issue, you go see a doctor. You don't just handle it on your own. There's so many professions, and I feel like this really is, after getting, like I said, getting into the weeds with this, that you just have to have that conversation. Like, why aren't you working with somebody? Why don't you work with an expert?
So I feel like to that point, especially until you have the skills down to where it's less of a skill and more just a part of you, you have to have your mindset really dialed in. And that's something I struggled with when I started in sales. I was always scarcity mindset, freaking out. Where's my next client? Even when I got clients, when I first started real estate, I was like, but then I won't have one next, right? So how did you handle the mindset piece of sales?
Gosh, I think I'm still a work in progress on that, honestly. Yeah, it is very different. It is very different to get into that mindset, and it's feast or famine. It's like you're gonna do the work, you're gonna get paid. If you're gonna sit at home, you're not getting a paycheck next month.
So what works to get you out of a funk then?
Networking. Getting around like-minded individuals, and the mega mixer that's coming up later this week, or in the past by the time this airs. The mega mixer is a good place to be. It just helps inspire me to do better, to be like the other people in the room.
Well, going back to that networking piece of it, when you first started New York Life, you said that was a skill set you had to learn.
Right.
What was the most intimidating part of networking for you when you were just starting out?
Knowing that if I didn't make a connection, I wasn't getting paid.
That's a good one. Now, when you go to these networking events and then you come across many other New York agents there at that time, what was your mindset knowing that you would have to figure out a way to brand yourself to stand outside of the crowd?
Oh, that's a good one. So using my designations as leverage, I think it's not many people have a lot of the financial planning designations, and so I think using the education, like, no, I may not be as experienced as they are, but my education backs me up.
Well, and don't people choose financial planners also on the connection, personality? True. It's, if you're able to cultivate that quickly, make friends quickly, then I would think that would be a huge benefit in client acquisition.
And I like to think I'm pretty likable.
You are. I think you are.
Thank you.
That's a huge quality. And you've been networking long enough, too. You know how to approach people without being weird and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
So, not like Mark over here.
Yeah. I like to be weird because it's actually a good icebreaker.
Makes people remember him.
You can just power through awkwardness in that point. Like, we're just going to accept this.
So, the importance of women working with a financial advisor is something that you highlighted. So what does that mean for you?
So I went to a women's conference for our company about a month ago and learned a lot of statistics and it made me look back on things I wish I had known 20 years ago. But 80% of men die married and 80% of women die single.
Wow.
And the average age for widow is 59 and a half.
Ooh.
So learning those statistics, it kind of changed my focus, changed my business plan a little bit. And I realized, I had my first child in 1998 and started working at USA in 2005. So I took some time off to be a mom. And I think a lot of women do. They take time off to be with their kids, or they don't prioritize their job over their children. And that can be a huge deficit for women, especially when it comes to retirement years. So I want to, like with networking, getting around like-minded people, I want to get around other women like-minded who have maybe put some of those financial planning things to the back burner because they've been focused on family or focused on this or focused on that. And it's like it's more important for us as women to develop a good, solid financial plan and get that in place.
But how do you approach that with women with respect to them actually wanting to pay attention to it? Do you shock them into it? Hey, your husband's got about 3.5 years left. What's your financial plan?
Husband's going to die. You better be prepared.
Statistically speaking, your husband is almost dead. What's your backup plan? How do you
The
approach
fear
it?
factor.
That's how Mark would do
maybe
it.
Not that blunt. Maybe not that blunt, but
That's what you said.
That is what I said. But I said, statistically speaking.
Right. That's the qualifier, right? I'm not
Yes.
saying that he's going to die.
I'm not saying that your husband's
Texting
going
my
to die.
husband,
but
you need to
I
work
just,
out more.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But I the other thing is typically women have longer life expectancies as a whole, and women tend to marry older. Like my husband's 8 years older than I am, so I know, that conference shocked me into realizing, wow, I really myself need to do better. We all do. I mean, and even as a financial professional, I was like, oh my gosh, I just realized I need to do better. Sounds insane, but that's where I'm like, I know that there's other people out there who just haven't come to the realization themselves that they could do better.
And one more question on that, a follow-up is, what are you going to do, or what are you doing to actually pull those people together so you can get the message out?
So I last week had a seminar called Wine, Women, and Wealth. And I did it at a winery and bought the first glass of wine, had some charcuterie, and just talked to the women about, hey, I sometimes you do have to do the reality slap. 80% of men are going to die married. 80% of women are going to die single.
Like, I drink to that.
Yes.
Your husband's going to die.
Let's get this planned out.
You may be excited about it. You may be sad. I don't know. Let's talk and figure it out.
And you went into the financial world when your kids were still fairly young. You've got 5 kiddos.
Yes.
And then going into New York life, they were obviously a little bit older.
Correct.
How did you juggle the networking and the momming? Because 5 is not a light number of children.
So my oldest is now 26. My youngest is 15. So at the time that I made that career change into financial planning, it was one of those situations where the older ones can watch the younger ones until dad gets home. And, I always would make sure dinner was started. The older kids, I mean, they can all finish a meal. They can actually now do an entire meal from scratch. So having that peace of mind myself, knowing that the kids were fine, they were taken care of, I wouldn't have been able to likely do this when they were toddlers. So, I mean, my youngest was like 12, 13, somewhere around there whenever I went into the financial planning world. So going to do networking events, and it was like, also it's kind of at a point where it's like, hey, mom needs some me time.
Let me tell you, it's a struggle bus a little bit.
It is.
I had to call in my in-laws last minute last week to drive up to our house from Castroville to watch my children. But I mean, it's a reality of it. And what are some of the things that you are like really honing in on with your kids now that you're aware of everything that you want them to grow up knowing?
Save. Save. As soon as you get your first job, 10%. Standard industry is 10 to 15% of your paycheck. Pay yourself first. So just having them be disciplined savers is very important. Save for the rainy day. Say, my daughter was talking about going, what's the concert up in Austin? ACL? ACL. She wants to go to ACL. And I was like, well, if you have the money in savings, go. But yeah, just saving is very, even like with birthday money, I try to make them save their birthday money too.
And
Well, everybody's telling me that you should be investing in the what's the
S&P
difference?
500.
S&P 500. It's like because they grow at least to replace the erosion of the dollar. They at least covers that.
Well, see, and I was
Right.
going to bring up the Richest Man in Babylon. Have you guys read that book?
Not yet.
So the premise of Richest Man in Babylon is that you save back 10% of everything that you earn, and that 10% you then use to invest so that your money can come back to you. It's a really, really short book. So if anybody hasn't read it yet, like it's this big, and it's
Is that
usually
that
free.
chauvinistic book you were talking about?
No.
That was a different
No,
one.
that
right?
was a different one. Any book that's about finances that was written in the 1950s, it just has a little touch
Yeah.
of chauvinism that I really don't like. But they're,
Why women
Different
should work with
generation.
women.
well, yeah, that's the thing. I think these books need to be rewritten, maybe. Like version.
Same principles.
Yeah, same
you know,
thing,
the
different font, a
foundation's
little
there.
less
Put a little
chauvinism.
Taylor Swift on
a
it.
little less,
Let's just do
oh
that.
yeah, T Swift, write something for me.
Oh, is that what it is now? T Swift?
Well, yeah, I mean I'm not a Taylor Swifty person, but
Me either.
that's an acronym for her. But
She
yeah,
supports her man on Kansas City Chiefs.
well, hopefully,
That's how we
it's
found out
the
about
30th. They haven't
football.
broken up yet, right?
They haven't. That's
They
what
were
I'm
supposed to
surprised
break
about.
up the 28th.
Why is that?
Well, that contract leaked, that fake contract that said they were going to break up on the 28th.
Yeah, and
Do you
that
not
was
watch
we
TikTok?
started that together.
Their publicist probably started that too.
It's great marketing.
Yeah, it is great
Yeah.
marketing.
What other aspects of your industry have you implemented within your own family?
I got a ton more life insurance.
How?
Yes.
When she found out her husband
Right?
was going to pass away earlier.
Right, yeah.
I'm
Once I
guessing
found out he was going to be
whole.
dead soon. No, I'm
Wow.
just kidding.
How did he
I'm
take
kidding.
that?
He's 8 years
Just
older.
sign
so.
here, sweetheart. Just sign right there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and taller men are statistically going to die sooner than short. I tell my husband
Taller?
that all the time, yeah, because their heart has to pump their blood to more of their
Yeah.
body. I tell
Makes
he's 6'3". I'm like, listen, you need to eat better and exercise more because you're so tall. Your heart has to work so much harder. So like, get it
Yeah,
together.
he's-
Is he receptive to taking orders from his
Yeah.
wife?
No,
Yeah,
which is
I
why
not
he's
either.
not doing it.
I'm not
Is it
good at that
taking longer
either.
to reach his?
Yes,
brain?
it's taking longer to reach his brain.
Sorry, I can't hear you way up here.
I can't. It's making its way up there.
Sorry. We get
But
a
yes,
little off
more
track.
life insurance.
Yeah.
More,
Yes,
I
more
did.
life
Yes,
insurance.
I did. I did get a lot more life insurance because I had insurance when I was at USA. I was at USA. They're a huge insurance company. So I had insurance set up with them, but I really didn't understand the difference between term insurance and permanent insurance. I didn't really understand, like, doing a calculation, what actually needs to be paid if something happens to me, or what actually needs to be paid if something happens to my husband. And you think, oh, well, we need to pay off the mortgage, we need to pay off the cars. It's like, okay, but do you have enough income yourself to support your family until retirement, or does your life insurance benefit need to cover a few years of income replacement on top of everything else?
So Dave Ramsey is a big, term only guy. What is your response to the generation / millions of people who get term life insurance specifically because Dave Ramsey says to?
So Dave Ramsey is buy term and invest the difference. And if you're disciplined enough to invest the difference, then by all means do that. There are temporary needs like housing, education, but there are also permanent needs like final expenses and funeral costs. So I believe more in a combination of both term and permanent insurance. The other thing is when you're looking at just doing an investment, like you mentioned, the S&P 500, if you invest money in the S&P 500, that's great. It's amazing. It's a good fund. However, there's tax implications to that investment when you withdraw the money. With life insurance, it grows tax advantage. So you can either loan or withdraw, but you're not having to pay taxes on that money as long as it's not a modified endowment contract.
And do you advise on like Roth 401k and IRAs?
I do. Yes.
And what are your thoughts on those?
Oh, Roth is amazing. I mean, you look at what are we at, about a $30 trillion deficit right now. So do you think taxes are going to decrease, increase, or stay the same? We've got to do something to pay off that deficit. So I feel very likely I'm going to be in a much, the country is going to be in a much higher tax bracket, 20, 30 years from now. And if you have the Roth contributions where you're taking that money tax-free, then because you've already paid the taxes on it in today's tax dollars, so you're getting all that growth back to you tax-free. So if we're looking at, I think the highest tax liability was something like 90% back in around like the 50s, 60s time frame. I heard Ronald Reagan used to only work 6 months a year as an actor because the rest of the year it was 100% taxed. So, you look at people are complaining now being at like a 22% tax bracket. It's like, well, imagine if it was 90. What would that do to your portfolio?
I figure the government is really good at spending money. They're not really good at using the money, but they're great at coming back and getting more money. So they're going to get it one way or the other. I was always nervous. I've got a great pension with the San Antonio Police Department. It's fantastic, but I never trusted it. I never wanted to put all my eggs in the one basket because it's such a fat thing. It's really good pension. I mean, it's like exceptional. We'll get 13, 14 checks. We get extra checks sometimes because it's doing so well. But that's a real fat cat for the government to come and snatch it up at some point. So I never really wanted to trust it. So obviously diversification is super important. What about investing in assets and stuff like that? Do you ever have conversations with people about that, or what's your opinion on that?
So like specific, like
real estate or businesses. I mean, having a business that produces revenue like mine is an asset. So that kind of stuff.
True. So Fidelity has a semiconductor fund that has AI in it, which I think is a great fund. It's considered an asset class fund. So it's just if I'm sitting down with someone and the client says like, hey, I really think AI is going to do great. Or I have some that are in real estate, different areas of real estate. And they're like, hey, I really believe in real estate. It's like, well, then let's look for a fund that is a real estate, like a sector fund. Let's look for a sector fund for you. But
like
yes.
That. I would imagine AI sector funds are going to do really good. Actually, I sound like I know what I'm talking about there. But they would do well.
I think the Fidelity fund did like 55% last year.
Wow.
Now, you said Fidelity fund, but what is that?
It's the Fidelity Semiconductor Fund, and it's got AI, it's got Google, it's got YouTube, it's a group of funds but they're all in the same asset class.
Cool. So someone who's really illiterate when it comes to investing like myself, we could come and have a chat with you and really get some good direction.
Right.
On that.
What's important to you. And the biggest thing is doing a risk portfolio to find out what your tolerance is for risk.
And so do you get us set up with the Robinhood app and we start doing all investing, the day trading? I'm just kidding. No. That's
It's the second time I've heard Robinhood app in the last 2 days. My brother was talking about it. He was like, I don't know what to do with my money. Do I do the Robinhood app? I was like, no.
It's like gambling.
Not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're just going to throw it away, at least throw it away into something.
Do you have an opinion on that?
Interesting.
The Robinhood app?
I mean, just like day trading in general. Like some people, it's like gambling.
It is like gambling. You want to have, there's layers to financial planning, right? So you want to have your foundation.
Fun money.
You want to have your foundation. You want to have your foundation solid and secure, which is your insurance needs, your life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance, depending on your age, medical insurance, absolutely. Because if you start toying in day trading and you don't have that security blanket at the bottom, that good solid foundation, then you could be tanked if you have a huge loss. So you want to make sure like all of your savings goals are being met, and then that should just be what you can gamble with. Because if you lose it, you're not having to say, oh, well, let me pull money out of my retirement so that I can get through the next week. Or let me pull money out of my kids' college savings so that I can get through. Or you don't want, or hey, gosh, I'm really going to struggle because I've lost way too many times on these day trades. I've lost way too many times. So I think I'll just cancel this insurance policy or that insurance policy for a few months and rebuild. So it is for very savvy investors and people who have enough financial net worth that they can afford to lose.
What do for business owners? What does the risk assessment look like?
So it would be similar to what we would do as far as a risk portfolio for an individual, but you're just thinking in terms of in the business aspect of it.
I have a question. Were you asking that as in, is it generally higher?
Yes. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. Because I would imagine
there's got to be more because of assets, right? No.
Well, like, have you heard of the 5 money personalities?
I have.
So, like, the business owners are like the spenders and the risk
Yes.
takers. Do you work with a lot
be.
of those where you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa?
We're most likely to jump before we think.
Calm down.
Like, yes, settle down a little bit. Just let's take it back a notch.
When do business owners like when you get around them, are they the kind of people that come in early, or are they that come in like, 55 plus, like we've not done anything, figure it out for us?
investing?
Yeah.
Or financial planning. Right?
Yeah, because a lot of business owners have the mindset of, I'll sell my business or I'll pass this business on to my kids. And sometimes that doesn't always work. Like, what if we're in the middle of a 2021 and, you mentioned COVID. Like, what if we're right in the middle of a COVID pandemic and you want to sell your business, but there's nobody to buy it? Like, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? If that was your retirement plan, you obviously have to keep working, or they assume that their kids are going to take it over, and maybe they'll just get a stipend as they pass in. That's going to be their retirement plan. Well, what if your kids don't want the business? So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement in the business world.
It's interesting because a lot of the businesses I talk about, or I talk to, a lot of them would love to pass their business over to their kids. And most of the people I talk to, their kids have zero interest in that business. And I was at a NABO meeting and they were talking about legacy, like how to legacy your business. And there was 4 business owners that had multi-million-dollar businesses sitting there, and they were talking about how do we legacy. And their number one thing across the board was like, if you want to give it to your kids, like you have to set that expectation from basically the cradle and raise them to want your business. Because otherwise you're going to end up like one of them. She was like, well, I was going to pass it to my 2 kids. And then one of them got married and decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and didn't want the business. And my son, he can't really afford to buy me out. So like now I'm selling it to somebody else. And then like documentation was there. And he was like, my grandpa fell off a ladder, went into a coma. My dad dipped. And then me and my brother were like in our 20s taking over a business. And it was a chaotic mess. So it's interesting how people just assume that their kids want their business. And that is not the case.
I think the best way to do it is to always set your business up to sell. That way you're covered, and there's no pressure on the kids either.
And your kids can buy it from you. Like if your kids really want it, great, kiddo. Buy it from me. That's my stipend right there, is a fixed payment for the next, 15, 30 years until I kick the bucket.
Till death do us part.
Till death do us part, my friend, and then you can take the rest of my assets.
Yes.
So do you sit down with business owners on that exit strategy? Is that something that how deep into that do you go as part of your service?
So it's the basic plan. Like, what is your exit strategy? Do you have one? And then if they don't have one, then we have resources available that we can help start getting that in place. And that's another thing. People wait too late before they start trying to develop an exit strategy. It's like the moment you buy your business, you should already be thinking about how you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, or you start it from scratch. It's like, every move that I'm making, I have it in my head that, it should be designed to be duplicatable, not reliant on one person, and then ultimately that makes it valuable to sell. So that I've kind of had that exit strategy in mind. Now, not all of it is always available.
Right.
We're moving in the direction because I don't think it's realistic to have, your complete exit strategy from the beginning, but definitely plan towards it.
Exactly. And you mentioned kids. Like, what happens if you have 2 or 3 kids? One kid wants the business, the other 2 don't want anything to do with it, but now they're mad because the child that owns the business is making all this money, and they want their share. They want their cut.
Well, and that is where my one that would want the business would be paying me handsomely for it. And the other 2 can wait until I die and get the rest, right?
Yeah, I mean, McDonald's is always hiring.
I think
so
they're gonna be very well aware of that.
$13 an hour.
up to 14 actually just down the road
yeah?
from me. Yeah,
Wow.
14. We live in a
Buc-ee's
high-end
Buc-ee's
neighborhood.
pays
Yes.
like $20 an hour
Well,
now.
you got to
Buc-ee
clean the
pays very
bathrooms
well.
to get that kind of money.
So, Costco, man, I was looking at that. $17 an hour to be a checker.
All right, so we, going back to the beginning on when it comes to working with women in the financial planning, there, any other thoughts in that area about your approach to it or anything we didn't cover?
Gosh. So yeah, I have the seminars where I'm targeting. Have another one that I'm going to be doing in January, the same concept, Wine, Women, and Wealth. And
It's a good name, by the way.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it's great.
And so the one in January is going to be Financial Readiness and Resolutions. So Wine, Women, and Wealth with the subtitle, Financial Readiness and Resolutions. Because everybody starts thinking about that's January is a time, right, where you have, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But the advantage of working with an advisor is I can keep you on track and keep you disciplined. Like having a health coach or having another person to help you reach.
Business coach.
Yeah, business coach.
Like
Shameless
Exactly.
plug.
I'm thinking the subtitle should be like Planning for Life Without Your Husband. You know what I mean? It's like,
Your husband's going to
I mean,
die.
why not
for
get
your
right to
life
the point?
alone.
You're going to have a really long registration.
or setting yourself up for your next spouse. I mean, that could go either way. It's not relying on one gender.
Phase 2.0 life. What's the general age demographic that you're looking to get into those seminars?
30 to 50. Ages 30 to 50.
All right. Well, if folks want to get in touch with you, Larissa, how do they do that?
You can call me on my cell, 210-884-3729, or my email, larissa.j.flores @mwarep.org.
All right, love it. So, what did you think of your first podcast?
Thank you for making this so easy on me. You guys are fun.
Yeah, right? It's not too bad, right?
No.
Everybody
My
kind of
gotcha
comes with,
journalism here.
No, none of that.
yeah, you're in good company here. All right, well, as we wrap up the show, quick reminder to check out our latest podcast and catch a video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.